Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be to everybody, and welcome to the Deen and Deals podcast, episode number 5. We're your hosts, Fathallah Hamid, and with me is my co host and brother, Muhammad Kiswani. And in today's episode, we're diving into pipeline solves all. Muhammad, what do you think about that? Does pipeline solve all?
I think it definitely fix a lot of things, and it can put you in a much better spot. And anybody who has a lot of pipeline is usually a lot less stressed out than someone who doesn't. That's for sure.
You got that right. That's definitely well, yeah. I mean, I know some folks who have a lot of fake pipe, but moving it forward, tell us more. When has pipeline saved your life? I want to hear more on that.
I mean, pipeline is everything. I mean, if you just think about like as a sales rep, when you're looking at your Q4, which is coming up for many companies right now. Actually, October, November, December is end of Q4, right? It's
Right.
Q4 for most companies. In my situation where I currently work, our Q4 is November, December, January. So,
So lucky.
but it has some pros and cons,
It
but
has
it
a pros
definitely
cons.
it makes December less stressful with the time off. Um,
Absolutely.
but I mean, this has been a motto that I've been hearing in my sales career, my whole career, which is, it's all about pipeline. Obviously, you can work on close rates, but you have to know your numbers. And if you have, 3x, 4x pipeline coverage to your quota, assuming that you're doing something right with closing and you're doing okay, you should be able to get to your number. So pipeline is truly the first step. Of course, you got to close it, but if you don't have it in the first place, you're in a tough spot.
Yeah. No, that reminds me of like a post I saw on LinkedIn once about how like especially to the point of Q4, right? Like so
Mhm.
many people, we've all experienced this. A deal slips, something doesn't work out. Great pipe hygiene or great pipeline building throughout the year is a means for like, oh, something slipped, great. I have something I was working on anyways. I wasn't putting too much pressure because maybe they weren't ready, whatever it is. That's an example of how pipeline solves all. I don't know what's. Do you have any examples of what that's kind of looked like for you in the past?
Yeah, I mean, I will say many times in my career, Q4 is always the best, just because it's an interesting time because you have sometimes companies need to use budget that they have before they lose it for next year. So a lot of
Yeah,
companies want to be able to use that. A lot of times because we have January and are currently like it's also the beginning of the new year for a customer. A lot of times we were in a point where it's like, oh, they're getting budgeting ready, but then it's ready to use in January for a project. So if you had that convo early on, it was an interesting time for me because you could have a great end of year, but also a great beginning of year, and it
yeah.
would still be your same quarter, even though you're in, part of 2 years, December and January. A lot of stories out there, you know, but that's what comes to mind. When I one time had like about 300K deals in December and January, and the quota was like 160K or something like that. So it was totally blowout quarter. It
Oh
was
my
amazing.
god.
It was I never had it happen ever again, but that was one situation where it was a fun time to be working those, and they actually closed.
Yeah, no, I mean, who wouldn't want to be in that situation, right? No, I mean, and I think working backwards, right? Like, okay, yes, I think for those who don't understand what Q4 can mean to a company, public or not, is like Q4 is that time where it's like the holidays for us, right? Like we're able to, as one of my managers once told me, we're able to sharpen our pencils more, right? We're able to transact a little bit more flexibly, give or take, right? But it's also a time where it's like, okay, said customer, you've been interested in this initiative, you've expressed that budget might be a concern. Well, here's the time to capitalize on it. Especially in government, it's like use it or lose it a lot of the times. So it's like, okay, if hey, if you don't use this, 300K or whatever it is on this initiative or this thing you've been interested in, well, next year you're not going to be able to justify that 300K because it's gone. You can't use it again. But working backwards, Muhammad, like especially for me, I'm new in my role. I just joined service now, not too long ago. I'm also looking at Q1. I'm looking at teeing up this time that I'm in, where it's like, okay, maybe expectations are not at their full. I'm still in that ramp mode. How can I be next time, this time next year, like in a better position, right? Where it's like, and that's really what I think would be great is like for us to talk about that tactical day to day to build up to the point where, hey, next year me and you could be in that position where we have a few deals that are like, oh, quota's this, but I have 3x ready to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. That's what my former boss used to always say, like, we're always going to need a deal in Q1 and Q2 and Q3. So the idea here is when you think about pipeline generation, it's not just a one-time thing. It's not a short-term thing. It's a strategy. And one of those things where you think of it like an investment. Just like when you go to the gym every day, you do the small things daily, it's going to pay off in the long run. And you're always going to need that deal every single quarter. So to me, that means looking in my book of business across my 150 accounts to understand, okay, where are my accounts where there's an upcoming renewal with a competitor in January, in Q2, in Q3, and then having that organization to line it up to where I know, hey, coming into Q1, I have these accounts that told me 6 months ago, you know what, this is when our contract expires with the current competitor, so that I can make sure to reach out ahead of time and get ahead in that conversation. So to me, what that looks like is it's all about RGAs, which is revenue generating activity. My
Mm,
former boss, David Rubenstein, was all about that kind of, he used to say, sales leadership is just being a broken record. It's like, hey, what are the RGAs? What are you
mm,
focused on? And as an account executive in sales, you're either advancing deals, that's open pipeline, or you're generating deals.
right.
And everything else goes after that in priority. I don't care what you're doing, training, admin, team meetings, all that stuff does not matter in comparison to getting a deal in or advancing it. So
Absolutely.
that's how I break it down.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that is I was just on with someone in leadership today, and we're talking about somebody that I work with who's always really hard to get a hold of, and the leader was kind of like, man, I can never get a hold of said person. I have to mask that. But at least he's out in the field, man. At least he's out there talking to customers. And that, like you look at the top guys who've been doing it not just once, 1 year or 2 years in a row, the guys who've been doing it for decades. They are just like laser focused. Every minute counts. They almost like I've heard of reps. I know you've told me you try to go after this too. Is like they'll value their time down to the hour, right? Like if they're if their OTE is 350 or 200 or 500, right? They will break down, well, if I'm, out of the office and holidays, this, that, between all downtimes, I have 48 weeks in the year. They'll do the math on like, okay, well, if I want to make 500K, right? Something amazing. Then what's my hour worth? What does, it's a beautiful way of looking at it because it's like all of a sudden you're like, well, did I need to spend 30 minutes like browsing around or whatever it is that just costed me, I don't know, $500 or whatever it is. So that mindset of like art being so RGA driven, like that's how these top sellers do it. I mean, what's your experience been with that?
100%. I mean, I couldn't have said it better than that. I used to have a rep. Actually, I know someone on my team that told me, I think of everything. What's it worth to my hour? So, is this a $10 per hour task that I'm doing? Is it $100 task? Is it $1,000 task? And if you actually break it and do the math, I mean, if you are prospecting to a target account where that's like a few $100,000 deal, and your commission rate on it, you can do the math to ask yourself, hey, if I book a meeting with this account and ends up closing, even if it takes months and months, that one prospecting hour on this account could have been worth, $1,000+
Yeah,
activity wise, because that's you booked a meeting with that account and ended up closing. And on the flip side, there are certain activities, admin tasks, follow ups, where these are like a $10, an hour tasks that we think, hey, I'm busy. I'm in a team meeting. I'm doing this and I'm busy the whole day, but they're not really valuable to you. Those are the
yeah.
things you want to be deprioritizing. And if you can, even in your personal life, if you have things in your daytime that are, just taking a lot of your time, what can you outsource? How can you pay someone to do them for you so you can free up time to
That's your
focus on?
favorite thing ever, outsourcing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah. You know what's crazy? I'm okay. I have like five other questions that boiled up, but I just
Sure.
like. So I once went to, I had like a Fajr coffee with this like hardcore like private equity guy from my masjid, right? And I was telling him, this was back when I was a BDR, and he was like, I was telling him, yeah, I'm doing really good. Like I'm booking, a high volume of meetings. I'm cold calling C suites and all that. And he's like, that's great. But he's like, so what's your question? I was like, well, I want to figure out how to like, even rise above this and all that. He's like, oh, can't you just hire somebody overseas to make your cold calls? I was like, no, dude, I don't even think that's allowed. But dude, for a second, he had me thinking like, oh, well, on the topic of just RGAs, what's an RGA and what's not, like, I'm not saying anyone should do that, but it's like a different way of looking at it, right? When it's like, okay, what in my work can I outsource? I'm not saying anybody should do that; might be illegal, whatever it is. But in general, like, what can you automate? I remember Tanvir Mustafa, right? Who great guy,
Mashallah,
CRO
love
over.
that, love that
I
guy.
love that guy. Can't wait to have him on one day, inshallah. But he was talking about, when he was still at Salesforce, him and I connected for 30 minutes once, and that was one of the best advice he ever gave me. It was like, what can you automate? What in your process right now as a BDR, moving into an AE role, can you automate? So that was really good advice. Another thing I was going to mention is this is kind of more general from a non-sales perspective, but I was talking to a buddy of mine. It's not the best market right now. Who is like looking to land a job. He'd been out of a job and everything, and one of the things he was telling me is like, oh man, it's tough out there. I was like, okay, well, I'm not trying to be that guy. I'm very fortunate, alhamdulillah, to have a job, but what does hard mean? That's the discovery coming out. And he was like, well, I'll apply and, like, I'm not getting anything. I'm like, okay, well, again, not trying to be that guy. How many applications are you doing? He's like, well, I'll do about like 50 a week. And I'm like, okay, you ever tried 50 a day? And he's like, dude, are you kidding me? That would take all this time and all that. I was like, okay, how much time does it take? Again, if you're not working, how much time does it take? He's like, well, it would take me maybe like an hour, hour and a half to really, lock in and do it properly. I'm like, okay. Let's say in today's market, it takes 1,000 applications to get 10 interviews. And out of those 10, maybe you get lucky, you get two, three offers, whatever it is. I'm just spitballing. And you're looking to get a job that's paying you 120 or whatever it is. If it took 1,000 applications to do that, then look at it as for easy numbers, right? Like $1,000, like mentally, accept that $1,000 per job application is how much you're actually getting paid. Because when you look at it that way, then all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, it's worth. Then it's actually very worth going in and putting in the time.
Yeah.
So I think that mindset could be applied to not just people who work in sales, but people who are trying to get a job too.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, you can think of it that way too. And also you can think about it from the perspective of like, 50 applications a week is also crazy high. And it's like, what are you applying to? Like, are there that many roles you think you're a good fit for? How much are you customizing it? Which brings me to my next focus, which the next topic I want to chat about, which is, focus and targeting the right people, right accounts. Because for that guy too, your friend, I mean, applying for a job, do you really think 50 of those, you really want to work with those companies, or are you just doing it for volume?
Yeah,
And
that's
that
a good
takes us
point.
to prospect. Pipeline fills all, problems, and it can fix a lot of things for you. Not all accounts deserve your time. I can tell you confidently, the best AEs have a 30 to 40% close rate. That's just typical across the board. That means out of 10 customer calls that you have, 10 prospect intro calls, only 3 to 4 of them potentially will become customers. That means the majority of your calls, more than 50%, will not buy from you, even if you are amazing. That means if you're working on opportunities, disqualifying early, valuing your time, knowing what's a good deal and what's not, and spending that time that you have that's valuable, your resources, your team resources on the customer accounts and the prospect accounts that actually have a likelihood to close and are worth it. Work a higher value deal, with more priority and urgency over a lot of small ones, which you have to do a lot more work on. And then when it comes to prospecting, the way I look at it is identifying your book of business with something called the Pareto principle. Have you ever heard of that? The 80-20 rule?
A little bit, yeah. Tell us more.
For most companies, and even for most account executives, 80% of revenue will come from 20% of accounts or opportunities. And it'll look different for every place you're at. I'm currently
Yeah.
an account executive at Clary. I can tell you confidently as well, same thing, right? We have the majority of our business comes from 20%. 20% of our customers give us 80% of our revenue. And so why is that important? Is because like I know for me, I'm going to focus my time on maybe like 80% of my time on the accounts that I know are juicy. I'm going after them because they're an ideal one. I'm not going to go after just everyone because they're easier to go after. I want to go after the ones where I know if I get a
Yeah.
deal with this company, it's going to be worth it.
So let me just double tap on this a little more, because I think I love this, by the way, because I feel like it kind of brings down the process and breaks it into more actionable items, right? But like, let's say I'm a new AE, which I kind of am in this role. Okay, great to know that. Let's say the top 20% of my accounts are going to be the ones that are going to pay me. how do I figure that out? How am I going and prioritizing and all that? Walk us a little through that.
Yeah, 100%. I can walk you through how I do it. So step number one is in the first part of your onboarding is getting a good understanding of what a successful customer looks like what kind of challenge that they had, what persona did they have. In my situation, I can tell you past customers who was at a past user who came from like a Clary shop, past sales VP, leadership, revenue operations that used us before. We have access to that. It tells us like, hey, who came to this account from a previous customer, prioritizing number of sales reps. The higher they have, the more seats you can charge for. High intent signals. We have something called Sixth Sense, which is basically showing intent, people on your website. We have like marketing collateral dashboards that show like who's coming and who's like showing, researching keywords. That helps you identify where you want to go if you have, instead of going completely blind. Now, if you have none of that, then you have to look at what does an ideal customer look like? And
Yeah,
then you finding a way to prioritize that where it's like, maybe I'm going after biggest first, because at least if I get a meeting with them, I know it's going to be worth a lot.
yeah,
And if your CRM should have data, you should have close won opportunities. Check with your RevOps team to see what does good look like. How can I
yeah,
prioritize my accounts? Because no one is able to hit all of their accounts with the right accuracy and precision, especially if you don't have an SDR to help you and you're doing your outbound. You're not going to talk to all your accounts. So to me, the way I look at it is, hey, let me just lock in on past users, looked at Sales Navigator, people who've joined my accounts recently that I can reach out to, and I'm going to spend time. I actually will go in and look on. I'll make a small account plan that will say, hey, like who's the new user, who's a past user, who recently came to the account, what are some challenges they want to solve, and then
yeah,
I like to split up the prospecting and the research phase from the outreach phase. What that
wow,
means is I'm not going to go research an account and write an email at the same time. I'm going to research 5 accounts, identify who I want to talk to, put that in a spreadsheet of like what they use, history in the account, my targets. And then in a different session, I'm going to go knock out. I'm going to call everyone on that account. I'm going to send videos. I'm going to spend an hour and a half going after one big account because
yeah,
all I need is one nugget, one reply. And guess what? That is going to get me into that account. And that's all I need.
right,
At that point, you're already in. So
yeah,
that kind of activity I enjoy. It's more strategic prospecting. In some sales, if you're selling a very SMB focused product where guess what, volume matters. I've also been in that role where you have to use a power dialer, just they call it spray and praying. That's okay
yeah.
too. But where I am in this specific position, it's very much more strategic and I do enjoy it more.
Yeah, so it's a really data driven, um, you know, what is it? Sharpen twice, cut once type of thing,
Measure
instead of
twice, cut
just
once. Yeah.
yeah, right, right. That too. Like the whole perspective of just like you're really taking the time to download all the things that you know because I think that's what separates the average good-ish rep from the great rep. The person who's like, like Bill Gates always says, I don't, I love hiring the lazy person because they'll figure out a faster way to do exactly what I want
Oh, I
everybody to do.
love that. Oh my
Yeah,
God. I actually never heard that before, but it makes sense.
yeah. I mean, I'm not saying we're lazy guys, but it's about like at the end of the day, it's like I think a lot of people, a lot of reps at the end of the year, even if you hit your number, like last year, alhamdulillah, I hit my number, and I was like, man, what could I have done to make do more? Of course, alhamdulillah, right? But like, what could I have like it was just kind of like that post mortem, and that's where I really start to like have even like we talked about this a lot. It's like okay, even being more dialed in on like where to focus. Okay, I love that. I love that, and I think okay, now let's say said rep knows where they need to focus. Now it's like that execution plan, right? Of like, okay, I know I need to, let's say I have 100 accounts, I need to focus on these 20, still giving love to those other accounts in one way or another. Now it's like working backwards, right? Like if my number is 1 million, how much pipeline do you think? What's your comfort level with when it comes to? Is it 3x? Is it 4x? What do you usually go for?
I think if knowing, I would say knowing your close rate is important. So let's just say if your close rate's 30%, if you're new and you still don't know, give yourself like a 25%, 20% just to be safe. If you have $1 million quota, try to get like 4x, 4x. And is that easy? Heck no. Of course, I'm not saying it is, but
Yeah,
you got to start somewhere, right?
right.
And I liked your part about being efficient, someone being lazy. So there's nothing wrong with wanting to automate the mundane So you could spend more time on the things that make you a human, talking to customers, having conversations. I'm all about that. I can give a couple examples of it. Number one,
Please, yeah.
for example, we have something called Glean, which is like an internal AI. People have already heard of it. It's kind of like ChatGPT, but it's internally, and it actually connects to your CRM, to like Salesforce, maybe ServiceNow in your situation. So in the old days, I have to manually comb through my accounts to figure out everything. Right now, I go to it, I feed it my list, and I say, here are all my accounts. Go look at all the past opportunities, closed lots notes, reasons, re-engagement, and organize my accounts, giving me like priority in which ones I should be reaching out to based on them saying at any point in the notes, reach out in Q1. And then from there, that will actually give me that. And then it will actually queue it for me. And then I'll be like, hey, give me this in a spreadsheet and organize it in this way. Then I download that to a spreadsheet, and it has context in a custom field that basically says, hey, this account, this much closed lost opportunities in the past, this many users. And then it'll give me context saying like, maybe interested based on previous closed lost notes. Of course, not always accurate, but like it
Yeah.
does a lot of the scraping for you. And it's
That's
amazing.
amazing. That's amazing.
That
I don't know if we have something like that. I'd have to. I'm still new here, but
check it
hey,
out.
Glean, hit us up. No, I love that. Okay, okay. So that's great, man. I mean, I think just knowing what's available to you is also really huge, right?
Yeah.
Like how much revenue, how much like unrealized revenue is just in your CRM, basically just waiting to be found. I think that's a huge point there too.
There's a lot. There's a lot, man. And SubhanAllah, there's also one too where I've been using this extensively. I think I've been talking a lot about it, like using a dictation to help save you time.
Yeah.
There's something called Whisper Flow. I'm not sponsored by them. We've definitely
Man,
called
someone
them.
get Bill Gates on this guy.
No, I'm serious. Basically, it's like a dictation thing where it's on your phone and your computer, and you can have these hotkeys where when you click it, you can actually talk through it. You can speak paragraphs, and it uses AI to organize your text and actually write it in a clear way. I'll give you an example. I rarely type anymore. So when I'm crafting an email, what I'll do is I'll open up the email like Gmail, and I'll be like, Fathallah, I noticed that you just came from ServiceNow where you used Clary before. I'm reaching out to you because now in your current role, I saw you just raised 50 million and you're doing X, Y, Z. And here are two things that I think are relevant for you. I'll just spit that out and talk to it. It'll auto summarize that. It'll write that down with the right formatting and bullets in 1, 2, and it's just there. I do not kid you. I think my words per minute using that is like 136 words per minute. I think the typing
Wow.
ratio, I'm going to look it up right now, actually. Typical typing speed, because I'm telling you, like, when we're talking about efficiency right now, yeah, the
Yeah.
typical typing speed is around 40 words per minute.
Oh my God.
So what I'm doing is actually over 3x that. And I highly
That's
recommend
insane.
it because, I mean, you're talking about 3x. I'm using this internally for Slack. When I message someone like a whole paragraph, I'm just talking to it, and it's boom. You say one thing, it takes a couple seconds to boom, dropping it in. So the reason
Wow.
I'm bringing this up isn't to show off about like, oh, I use this. Is no, like, hey, everybody has access to it. It's like
Yeah.
$150 a year, but the value here is like literally you're getting 3x your time back. And so
Yeah.
if you look at your schedule, like I'm going to do some math later and figure out how many hours I'm saving, but I would guess I'm saving at least 3 to 5 hours a week from typing things in prospecting, research. I use it for everything. And that's one thing that I'm like, in this day and age, you have to be using the right tools for your day to day, because if you get back 3 hours a week from efficiency from using this one tool and you put that to prospecting every week for the rest of the year, I think your pipeline is going to look a lot different than it would
Probably a lot
before.
better. Probably a lot better. And I mean, like to your point about like just 3 to 5 hours a week, it really goes back to like knowing your numbers, right? Like what is your hourly rate? I'm not
Yeah.
talking about what Clary pays you or what ServiceNow pays me or whatever it is. I'm talking about what's the number you've set for yourself that you want to achieve at the end of the year. Is 150, what is it, like $12, $12 a month or whatever it is, like is your hour worth more? Yeah, if it is, I assume it is, then yeah, it's worth the investment. Uh, no, I love that, bro. That's amazing. I mean, like, okay, so you're talking about the strategic prospecting. I'm also going to take the opportunity to learn from you, bro. Listeners too, join in. But tell us more about like that. Okay, let's say let's put a set number of 100K that your hours is worth, or your annual target that you're trying to make.
I was going to
Inshallah, one
say
day.
my hour is definitely not worth 100K.
Soon, inshallah, inshallah, one day. But that's a lot. Huh? I guess let's say my annual number is 100K for easy, that I'm trying to hit. What does that look like monthly or yearly? We know it's 100K. Monthly, weekly, hourly, and so on and so forth. How would you do that? How would you advise a new rep to approach that?
And chat GPT for everything. You just say, hey, my annual number, my annual rate is 100K per year.
Yeah.
I'm working this many hours per week. What is my, if I divide it and I'm spending 8 hours a day, what is my hourly rate worth? It'll just spit it out to you. Okay. So if we just do it right now, 100K, what is my hourly rate worth if I work 8 hours a day? I mean, just simple math right now, right?
Yeah.
So it's just loading right now. I'm looking at it step by step, 100K, 40 hours a week. Hourly rate's $48 an hour. So if your hourly rate's $48 an hour, you have to ask yourself, like, if you got a task that comes to you and it's taking you 2, 3 hours to do, and it's worth a lot less than that, you're gonna have to ask yourself, should I be doing this? Right?
Mm.
An example could be mowing your lawn, right? If you have like no time to do that and you have so much work you got to do, and you get someone to mow your lawn for like $25, maybe you should have them do that. And then again, not to go to extremes, obviously, but like I'm talking
Yeah.
about during work hours. I
Yeah.
like to mow my own lawn. I like to do my own things, fold my own clothes. I'm not going to pay someone for that. But the idea here is when you're working in your
Yeah.
daytime, are you scrolling LinkedIn right now for no purpose? Are you making $48 to be doing that? If you're not, then you better find a
Get
way
off
to.
LinkedIn. Put your phone down. Get back to the phones.
Are you on
Yeah.
Instagram? Are you
Yeah.
just messaging someone? Are you just over indexing on researching a prospect account before actually calling? Like, you just
Yeah.
have to look at it, because if you go and you book this massive meeting and it's worth a 50K deal, all of a sudden that hourly activity could have been worth you know $200-300.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, I love that, and I think a really important point in that regard is it's like it just comes down to your like the overall like right now we're approaching the beginning of the new fiscal, but we're also ending this current fiscal.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back, it's like what do I wish I did better? Well, you don't want to look back the following year and be like, well, I didn't do it right because I didn't commit to it. So I think one thing that's also really helpful is like, and alhamdulillah, I have that in you and some other brothers is okay. Now that I've established, let's say my hourly rate is $50 an hour, right? Because I'm trying to hit this one number, then it's like okay, I put it to the accountability buddy in Muhammad or a colleague. Sometimes you have colleagues you could depend on like that, and it's like I can think of a few. It's like okay, well now that I've set this out, I have the accountability. It's time to go. The sad thing is though, however, sometimes it doesn't always work out. I mean, I think the top headline should be for or the anti-sale of sales is it's like you ready to get kicked in the face nonstop by
Mm,
customers and
yeah.
told no? It's like, oh, what? I thought sales is like you make a lot of money. Oh no, well, I mean, you make a lot of money off the like five prospects who give you a shot, out of 100, right? So walk us through kind of like your perspective, and I'll also share kind of on mine on like just like the perspective of like reaching out to like the perfect client and you've put in the time, you've researched it and all that, and it doesn't work out. Like what's that like?
And that's the reality of sales. I mean, that's just how it is. I talked about like having like 100 accounts, for example. An account could look juicy, be amazing. You do all the outreach and all the good stuff, but they just renewed with a competitor 2 weeks ago. And no matter what you do, you're not going to sell to them, right? So it all comes down to putting in the inputs and doing the work. Sometimes you just get lucky. Sometimes you have that nasib where you meant to have it at the right time. It's more about just doing the inputs that are required, putting in, all the effort, and then eventually, inshallah, you get the outcome. Sometimes you don't, but you know what's guaranteed to not get the outcome? Not doing the work and just hoping for, something to just pop out of nowhere. That's for sure. So when I think about this, one of the ways like I was told one time was, if you know it takes like 30 people telling you no to get a yes, you can split the math up knowing that every no is actually paying you back in a sense. So if you're going to get a commission check of like, I don't know, 5K on a deal, and you know that you have to call 20 people to get that deal, then like, hey, this person was this $100, $100 until you got to the final one. That's the one that you got paid on. And so you do have to have that mental fortitude of like, hey, I'm not going to give up. I know what I got to do, and just going through it and not taking it personally. Once you get past that hump, um, or the roadblock, you definitely start to enjoy it more. But I will say, not to get on a soapbox here, but sales is like that, where you can do everything right and it still doesn't work out. And you just have to have that tawakkul on Allah and knowing that
Mm.
you have to ride the wave. Sometimes you just get lucky and you're like, oh my God, I'm the best in the world. But don't get too high, because when you're on the bottom, you don't want to blame yourself. You take responsibility, but also it's like,
Yeah.
hey, sometimes sales comes in waves. And so
Yeah.
just do the work. And if it's meant to be, inshallah, you'll get it. But don't be desperate.
And I think that's a beautiful thing. Is like which you mentioned brings up a few thoughts. First and foremost is like the number one way to not make money in this world is to not try, right? So it's
Yeah.
like if you're already kind of coming in as a defeatist and it's not going to work and nobody's answering and all that, okay, well there you go. You're not going to hit your number. You're not going to make any pipeline or whatever it is. And that's actually like against the sunnah, right? Like the sunnah is to tie your camel, right?
Yeah.
The sunnah is to put in the work, have tawakkul, like in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about like
Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam.
even the birds in the morning get up on an empty stomach and don't know where they're going to get their rizq, right? So it's like that mindset of like I don't know where I'm gonna get my. I mean, using my data and the sixth sense and all the things that Muhammad mentioned, maybe I'll have an educated guess. But even when that doesn't work, sometimes the least expected prospect or the person who's like maybe that person just renewed with a competitor, but they want to do a proof of concept or whatever it is. You won't know until like you've given it a shot, right? So that's I think the most important part of the thing is like what are your controllables day in and day out? What can you control to secure at least at the end of the year to say, you know what, I to your point, if a low is to come and إنما مع العسر يسرا, like if a low is going to come and lows do come, it's like you want to at least look back and say, you know what, I kept the fire burning day in and day out. I had good days, I had great days, and I had not so good, not the best. But at least every day I can look back and say I put in the work, even if it was a little bit. I was just talking about this with a colleague of mine. Is like I think the best number for like somebody selling to mid market and above or enterprise or whatever, like I sell to like government, right? So it's like a good number is like 5 to 10 ish prospects a day, right?
Mm.
Because it's like it's so little that it's almost like stupid not to do, and it's also not a painless experience to go in and every single day. But at the end of the year, if I reached out to I don't know what the math is on that, you know, 1,000 prospects, for example, 15 of them gave me a shot, then that like 30 minutes to an hour and a half a day was worth it. You'll never like regret giving it a shot. So I think that's a really important perspective. And I think and I'm sure we talk about this all the time. It's like, okay, now that you need to break it down into a day in and day out thing. It comes down to like you know all right, now that I know what my numbers are, where I need to attack, now it's the tactical day to day. And that's like, okay, structuring your time blocks. If it isn't on your calendar, it didn't exist. It's not something that's important.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And going from there. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I said I learned that early on too, and I definitely agree with you. It's like the best sellers live by their calendar. If it's not on there, it's not going to happen. To-do lists are great, but to-do lists have to get on your calendar for them to actually happen, and you have to actually do it. And so that actually takes me to my second part I want to talk about is structuring your prospecting. Like top three takeaways from that I've learned over the years that I think work well is do it early in the day while you have energy. I have a block on my calendar where it just says like, hey, 3 different blocks, check this list for like new inbound or like MQLs. Then it's like, hey, spend half an hour on LinkedIn going through, recent changes in your accounts, updates, triggers, whatever source of data you use. And then separating, like I said, research from outreach. Put your energy where it makes sense. If you find that you have a lot of energy at lunchtime after having lunch, boom, knock out your cold calls at 1 p.m. or whatever. If you feel like you get really sleepy after lunch and you have energy in the morning with coffee, go do the cold calls
Yeah,
in the morning. So it just really depends
absolutely.
on that and being organized. So put your blocks in the calendar. One thing I love to do, by the way, I have to share this hack I learned from my friend once was color code your calendar.
Hmm.
So green, any RGA activity, revenue generating activity, I put it in green. So it energizes me.
I
Any
wonder why.
internal meeting, admin work, right? Red, blue, whatever you want to do, but make them green and make sure your calendar is filled with green, filled with cash. If you do that, It will motivate you.
I love that.
It'll
Filled with
it'll
cash.
exactly. I mean, money is green, right? Unless these days no one uses cash. So, um, that's what I would say is a good takeaway from that as well.
No, I love that, and I think kind of overall, um, that kind of brings me to the thought process of like, again, that at the end of the year, sitting on the cliff, the scene of Thanos looking over. I don't know if you watch the Avengers, but looking over and just like, I did it. Like, what is that? What are you thinking, right? Um, I know for me, I want to think at the end of the year that pipeline solved my problems. Not
Mm.
that I didn't have pipeline. No, I put in the effort. Tawakkaltu ala Allah, and I left the rest to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And some years it'll pay off, right? Like we
Yeah,
all know, we all hear the stories of reps who go and kill it. And some years it's like, okay, well, you at least put in the work, and you can rest on your laurels. That alhamdulillah, I did my part. Qaddar Allah. Maybe it wasn't written for me like that. The hitting my number, or that 500K or whatever. I keep using 500K, but
you like
that
the number.
big.
You like the number a lot. You like the
I
number a
love the
lot,
number a lot. Well, because it's like that's a funny one. That's the number that it's like what Whenever if I hit that number, inshallah, one day I'll be able to look to my parents and be like, "See, I didn't have to become a doctor to make that kind of money."
huh?
But no, it's like I guess my overall thought is it's like if it wasn't meant for me, but I did all the work, then alhamdulillah, right? Like
Yeah,
like if that was not meant to come to me, at least I tried, right? Because next year, if the rizq is meant for me and more, and I try, in that vehicle, it would have been worth it. So that's
yeah.
kind of my overall thought process.
SubhanAllah. I love how you phrase that too, because I'm reading this book by Osama Shurafa about it's called The Afterlife Manual, and he talks a lot about detaching from the means of this world, where it's like, hey, money is a source, right? Obviously, helps you get what you want, but like, Allah is the one who gives you money. Sometimes it comes out of nowhere. Like we've all had bluebird deals where it's like they come inbound, they want to buy, they're ready to go, and it's like I didn't work for that. Other times you go out and you do all the hustle and bustle and try to get that deal and outbound and calling, and they just don't buy. And you
Yeah,
did everything right, but it didn't work. So realizing that at the end of the day, it's all from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not attaching to it, or not attaching your outcome to your quota. Like, sure, we're talking about numbers, we're talking about pipeline. This is all important. But at the end of the day, your identity should not be, did I hit my number? Did I not? We're just talking about pipeline. We're talking about doing the work. And inshallah ta'ala, if you have the right intention and you do the work, inshallah you're successful. But even if you're not in that specific number, you are successful because you had the right intention of putting food on your table for your family, helping achieve the goals that you wanted to get, in terms of the donations or the whatever goals you have in life. Inshallah, with the right intention, Allah will provide for you, and inshallah you will be more successful than you even asked for. Bidnillah.
subhanallah. I think I don't know if this is totally relevant, but kind of just the last thought or ayah that came to mind was when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away.
Sallallahu alayhi wasallam.
I'm reminded of the image of Umar radiallahu anhu, and that's like such a sad image, right? Of him
Yeah.
like finding out, and like it was just a sad scene. And then what does Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu say? He says the ayah of, and I don't have it memorized, astaghfirullah, but وَمَا مُحَمَّدٍ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبْلِهِ الرُّسُلُ.
Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Yeah.
يعني the ayah goes on to say like, and I'll bring it back. I know it might seem kind of out the blue, but it's like, yes, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, right? But
Sallallahu alayhi
he's
wasallam.
he's only a prophet. Prophets have passed. So is that gonna like just change how you are, right? And I guess the reflection for me is like, it's like, again, that's the biggest biggest, most sad thing to happen to the ummah, right? That Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, but as in calamity in general, right? Or test in general, is that going to just make you quit? Is that all you got, right? Being tested with a tough year, you put in all the work, whatever it is. Is that all you got, or are you going to rise above it, right? Are you going to continue worshiping Allah? Do you like, rent still has to be paid, right? Like
Yeah.
salah still has to take place. You still have to pray if you feel like it, if you don't like, whatever it is. So you still, playing it on a way smaller
Mm.
scale when it comes to work too, right? Like, oh, things didn't go your way on a competitive deal. Great, pick up the phone, right? Like, dust it off. You need to be able to dust it off and keep hustling.
SubhanAllah. What a great reminder, Fathallah. I really appreciate that. And yeah, I mean, basically, that's what you said. Do the work, trust in Allah, and know that, inshallah, consistency will compound, hopefully, building more pipeline. That gives you the ability to sell with confidence and not be desperate in
I,
deals, right?
I, I hope it wasn't too morbid, but it was just a reflection that came to mind.
No,
Subhanallah.
subhanAllah. It's all about reflection. I feel like, when we reflect, we grow. And so it's, you're always someone that's very good at reflecting and bringing it back to the stories of from the religion. Alhamdulillah.
And with that, let's wrap this up. Alhamdulillah. Today, bro, this was I had a great discussion with you. Alhamdulillah, and I hope the listeners benefited. Inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, 100%. Okay, and that, my friends, is a wrap for today's episode of the Deen and Deals podcast. Please do not forget to subscribe on YouTube and where you listen for podcasts. If you're using Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen, please subscribe. It makes a huge difference for us as well. So please leave us a review, share us, send us a DM on LinkedIn or whatever, and let us know your thoughts. We're always open to feedback as well. Until next time, stay true to your deen, keep working your deals, and inshallah, we'll see you soon. Assalamu alaikum.